If you have kids, would you teach them chess and would you encourage them to go into a career in chess?
I would teach my kids chess.
So you guys, obviously it is an announcement time, and this of course is my wife, Atusa, and I thought I would do the announcement here more than anywhere else for a couple of reasons, but we are, of course, expecting a baby. Mini Hikaru, yes, Mini Hikaru, exactly, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, congratulations to Magnus Carlsen and Ella Carlsen on the birth of their first child. Let me fix the camera. Yeah, so Magnus Carlsen is a dad. We are now halfway to Mini Magnus versus Mini Hikaru. I'm very excited for that. And also, Hans Niemann won Titled Tuesday. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to showcase some of his games, and then there'll be some images of Magnus Carlsen. Once again, congratulations to him and Ella, and a congratulations to Hans Niemann, who has won Titled Tuesday. So we're going to look at 3 of his games, 3 important games. He wasn't 7 out of 7. He had a draw, but he was playing against Hikaru Nakamura in round 8, and they had a very interesting game. Also, they have changed the format for Titled Tuesday. It's now no longer, I think it was 3+1. It's now 5+0. And Hikaru, he won last week. He won week 4. But the first 3 weeks, he was a little bit anonymous. Magnus Carlsen is, of course, not playing this event. He's with his wife. He's with his now child. I think it's his son. So these two played each other. We had E4, E5. I apologize if you don't like the board color. It's in the events area of chess.com, so I can't really change it. I'm sorry. Knight to F3, Knight to C6, and we had Bishop to B5, and a Spanish game, Roy Lopez, A6, the Morphy line, Knight to F6. This is all mainline Spanish stuff, as they bust out several moves. Look at that, barely spending any time, and now D5 from Hans Niemann. A huge move in the center of the board, kind of exploding everything, inviting some trades, potentially going to push some stuff. So Hikaru, he's up on time, but now he has started to think a little bit. You can see they've still got 4 minutes, and it's important because you're playing 5-0. So at some point this will just become a time scramble. We get D3, D takes E4, pawn takes E4, and a queen trade. So Hans Niemann elects to trade queens, and now we have this position on the board. Also, you had to take with the bishop. If you took with the rook, you would lose your pawn in the center of the board. That pawn is hanging. So we get bishop to d6. Now a4, striking at the queen side. You have pushed these pawns forward, and they could become liabilities. So a typical Spanish move. We get bishop to e6. Knight bd2. You don't want to take, right? Because taking, you kind of keep the pawns all together, and both rooks just open up. So there's no need, and then there can be some tactics at some point. h6 now. b4, pushing the knight out the way, but now it just goes into c4. We get bishop to b3, rook f8, rook f b8 rather, sorry, not rook f8, the rook on f8 to b8. I'm sorry, it's late. I'm recording this at like 8:45 at night, which for some people is early. For me, it's a bit late. Knight takes c4, b takes c4, moves, forces the bishop to move, and now c6. You might say that's a bit random, but what you're doing is you're controlling white's major pawn break, which is b5. And it's a pretty locked position. So you're looking kind of, where can I place these knights? Unfortunately, there's not really good squares for the knights to go. This also means there's no real hole there on d5. There's no hole there. It's really, really hard. So we get a5, rook to c8, h3. You can see the players just kind of locking everything up, making some quiet moves. Rook a b8. So now we've moved our rooks over all one square to get them on different files, because quite frankly the a file is dead. This file is dead. Knight to d2, and now Hikaru's actually manufactured something, and Hikaru surprisingly is down on time. Hans Niemann has played very quickly and he's played very well, and he's got here, you can see, I hope you can see the blue move. You've got to play this. You've got to play c5. That is the only holding move for Hans Niemann. So despite the fact Hikaru's down on time, Hans does have a leveling resource, and he does find it. He plays c5. Now Hikaru must take on c4, which he does do. Now we get this exchange, and now b takes c4, opening the attack on the bishop and the pawn behind it. So when the bishop grabs here, we can grab this with the rook. The bishop retreats, and now we get b3. So everything's kind of liquidated, but probably this pawn will get blockaded, this pawn will be blockaded, and it'll probably be a draw. So we're going to see now if someone can create something as we maneuver the bishops. Oh boy, rook c2 is a mistake from Hans Niemann. In this position, you kind of look like you're busted a little bit. Rook c7 looks so natural. Rook c2 looks so natural. You've actually got to play rook c7 in an astonishing move. Allow this exchange and just say, now I've got a second kind of pass pawn that you have to worry about, and this is not too much because I can trade it here, and then I can jump in the center and come and help. That's what you have to do. Rook c2 is wrong, but it's wrong for one move only, and you have to take the rook. You have to do this, which looks silly. But you've got this. You can grab in here, and then you've got bishop to d3. And if check, for example, oh, not there. If check, for example, you can just take. You can promote to a queen. The bishop defends the square, and then you promote because the knight can't get back in time. So you have to take the rook. Unfortunately, Hikaru takes the bishop. He mixes the move order, but it now allows Hans to grab, and we get this position, which is slightly different. a7, the rook moves out the way, and now rook b1 is wrong. Rook takes a7 is fine. Knight takes e4 is also a consideration that you can play. The main idea is the same. You just got to be careful here. You obviously don't want to allow this check, so you can just play rook takes a7, and there's no back rank. You've just got to be careful, because you might be worried about this, and the pin, but you've got like f5. So rook b1 unfortunately is the wrong move order from Hikaru. It allows this liquidation, and there's not much to say. Everything I showed you happens. f5, we now get f3, but simply rook targets the bishop. So if you take my knight, I take your bishop, you can grab here, but it doesn't mean anything. And the players go on. Hans just has to guard his king slightly. You know, you don't want your king to get boxed in, but there is a check, and these players know how to draw this, so they get a threefold repetition. And Hans Niemann draws Hikaru Nakamura. Right, that was round 8. This was round 10, the penultimate round. Jan Nepomniachtchi versus Hans Niemann. Hans again showing you a game he's got with the black pieces. Jan goes for d4, and we get knight to f6, c4, and e6. Knight to c3, bishop to b4. I always find it interesting watching Titled Tuesday, because like you've seen videos and stuff of grandmasters just playing some of the stupidest openings you've seen in your life. But now the 5-0 is such an interesting format, because you don't have the bonus time, but you've got time at the start to kind of play some serious openings. Like if it was 3-0, you could play anything stupid. But with 5-0, you've actually got to be semi-serious. So we get a Nimso Indian defense, e3, short castles, a3. Now we get this exchange, knight to c6, f3, and this is a main line. This is a main line that's been played before. One of the normal lines of the main lines, bishop to g5, d6. Black tries to trade off this bishop, so you can't push this forward. Plays in a very, I don't want to say provocative manner, but they've got this like spiky structure, kind of similar to various hedgehogs. Yes, that is a chess opening, I promise. White played f3 to support the center, and white kind of lacks a bit of development, but they'll be able to get these pieces out, and sometimes just play king to f2, and not even castle. So we're going to see how Jan elects to play this. He develops the bishop, we get h6, the bishop drops back, this bishop could potentially drop back all the way to f2, e5 now, striking in the center, knight to e2, and now look at this, knight to a5. How do you defend the pawn? We don't, we castle. Because how you're going to take it is important. We get bishop takes, and we get the knight takes, but now there's queen to d3. These players know what they're doing. They've spent like a minute. b5 now defends the knight. a4 looks to undermine it, and you just play c6. Takes, and now rook a6. The rook infiltrating, looking to target some weaknesses, to maybe come back and put pressure, but obviously the queen protects that square at the moment. This rook now can come in and join the action. So we get queen to c8, which targets the rook, but now rook a1, knight to d7. Sidestepping very nicely out of the pin. This was very annoying, so you've slid your queen and your knight out the way. But now bishop to e7. It's an interesting idea, but rook e8 and takes, but I think Jan forgot that Hans just has rook e6, as you can see on the board. And it hits your bishop and your rook through it. Like, the bishop just dies. So you can take here, you're protected for a moment, but now there's knight c5, rather, not knight d, knight to c5, which hits the queen. If you take, you obviously lose the rook. So you have to take, you lose the rook. So you're just down the exchange, and we trade off both sets of rooks. But Hans Niemann is much better. He is just much better. We get f4, rook to c8 now, targets that bishop again. It's been targeted the whole game, bishop to d4, and now we pin it. You're not going to be able to win it. It's well defended, but you might be able to undermine it with various b4s. But it's, I mean, like, the queen's defending it, the knight's defending it. It's a pin for pin's sake a little bit, but it's a good move. It immobilizes it, h3. The queen now looking to infiltrate. Hans is better, but making the rook impactful is so difficult when all you're doing is kind of staring at stuff. You have to create tactics. His biggest asset is not the fact that he's got the rook, it's this pawn, this a pawn. That is what's going to be his biggest asset. Knight to g3, and there it is, a5. Knight infiltrating. Jan's got to go for it. Jan's just got to go and attack the king. King to h7, the queen infiltrating, but look at that. Beautiful. Queen to g6. You can't trade queen, so we play queen h4, but now rook d7. Everything being defended. Obviously, I don't know how many of you saw that. The rook was being attacked, so we just slid it up one square. Queen drops back, and now a4. We can keep moving, but every time you make a move, look at this. Now I can trade. And this bishop looks beautiful because it's targeting that pawn. You do not have time. These pawns are coming. You have to defend them. And the rook behind the pawn on a light square, when this is a dark squared bishop, killer. Absolute killer. So we have check with discovery, and look at that. Rook to g6. Uh-oh. 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 So we defend, but now a3. Attack the rook. Rook slides up. Check. Here. Takes. Queen d5 is one of the coldest moves I've seen. Why? You don't want your king to take this. Because this discovery can be vicious. Because the king might have to slide back. Let's say something like, king g8 probably, right? But now you get this, right? And your king's a little bit in the open. There are some checks and stuff, and you don't want to open your king up, and Jan might be able to find something. It's losing, but you might be able to find something. Queen d5 is cold and correct. Now we get e6, but simply a2. g8 queen, king takes. The king is in the open, but it doesn't matter. Check. King slides back to g8, and you just don't have any more checks. c4 is the last attempt. We just take with the pawn. King slides over. Check. We push, and now the queen's here. This can be taken, but you lose defense of the bishop. So we have to defend the bishop. We target the queen a couple more times. Check. The bishop comes forward, and Jan plays the move and resigns. Hans Niemann defeats Jan Nepomniachtchi. From something silly, bishop to e7. Just innocuous, and then bishop takes d6. Just an unbelievable error from Jan Nepomniachtchi, but he's been known to do this, unfortunately, for Jan. So I move on to the final game of the video. And so we move on to the final game of the video, Hans Niemann versus Alireza Firouzja. Alireza Firouzja, of course, one of the best blitz players in the world. He's had an interesting couple of months, Alireza Firouzja, not Hans Niemann, Alireza Firouzja, because He's a good player. He's always a good player, but he probably hasn't been as good as we come to expect from him. He's been a bit quiet for a little bit. I say that and someone's going to tell me in the comments, no, he won this tournament, or he won Titled Tuesday a couple weeks back. I haven't heard much from him lately. So I'll put that there. This is the first game we've got Hans with the white pieces. He went into this round with half a point lead. So he wins, and then he wins Titled Tuesday. So e4, c6. Alireza Firouzja plays a Caro-Kann defense. We get knight to f3, and Hans goes for this line with d3. I was just talking a couple minutes ago about how they play serious lines. This is not serious at all. This is not serious. We get the bishop pinning, and now here, and now knight to c3, e6. Like, honestly, if I just looked at this position, I wouldn't know what opening this came from. I could say Scandinavian, say a French, a Caro-Kann, I suppose. Why do they play like this? When do they ever play like this? So bishop to g4, a3, and I think Hans knew that he needed to win to guarantee. A draw would maybe see him tie for first. But he was playing just so provocatively against Alireza and kind of saying, come at me. I'm going to play h4, you're going to play h6, but now I play h5. Bishop to h7, and somehow he's actually slightly better. b4 is a bit much, because you get c takes, and now the idea was to play knight to b5, but I think you forgot about bishop to c7. I think you forgot about that. Yes, you get g5, but knight to c3, and I'm not scared. Knight to c6. g6. Bishop to g8. Now we take the pawn. A takes b. We lose the center pawn. And the game just explodes. c3. Now look at this. Knight takes f3 check. Queen takes, and now f6. Just look at this position and be honest with me. If I gave you this position, would you guess that the average blitz rating of the two players was about 2770? Be honest with me. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking down the lens. See this position. Tell me you actually believe that the average rating is about 2770 of 2800. It looks insane. You've got these two pawns, which are doing a great job just defending against this light squared bishop, but you're about to push in the center. Like, I would say black here, despite what the engine says, because you're going to get long castles. But the thing is, you're long castling into this open file. Well, why would you have white? Because you've got all this airspace, you've got this airspace, you've got, you don't have control of the center, your pieces are just scattered all over the place, you've got these two stoner pawns. I don't understand anything. b5. From white makes sense, you're going to force the knight back, so we get knight to d8. Yep. d4. Preventing e5, but doesn't actually prevent e5 because I still go e5. D takes e5, f takes e5. Now look at this. Two beautiful central pawns. But where are these kings going? This is like how they played chess a long time ago when castling wasn't a rule. Excuse me. Where's the king going? Excuse me, where's your king going? You got problems. Both of you. No respect for your kings. This is a fight to the end. Castles. Everything's fine. I mean, it's not. Why would you castle when your pawns are chilling on the 6th and 5th rank? And you've got all this airspace, look. Your bishops are doing a good job defending. But they feel very loose. Not gonna lie. e4. Beautiful move. Now, rook fe1. Slight mistake from Hans, but the idea is very simple. You're just pinning it to the king, which is still in the middle of the board. Now we get bishop to e6, and you'll see this blue arrow on the board, so it kind of spoils everything. Hans Niemann has one and only one move to be better here. Everything else is better for Alireza Firouzja. And I don't understand what the engine does here. It says bishop takes e6 is a brilliant move. It is, because it's the sacrifice of a queen. But if you take the queen, you've got, like bishop, any discovery is checked, but you can like go here, which loses the game. Probably, yeah, bishop to g4 check is the best move. Now the king has to go to like f8. And now probably I would take this, but the best move is to play the absurd rook to a4 to go here. Yeah. So bishop to e6, sacrificing the queen, but knight takes e6, which was the idea. And now you have queen to f5, targeting the knight. Knight has to be defended. And now bishop to e3. Don't understand bishop to e3. It just feels so slow when you are launching an attack. Now the best move you can see on the board is the knight coming in here. That is the best move. Inviting a queen trade, because actually beelining for an endgame, these pawns might be weak. But rook f8 is played, targeting the queen, but now the queen just slides to e5, and it's actually really difficult to remove. And yes, you can play rook to d8, but now I just grab a free pawn. You stop defending it. Rook to f3 targets the bishop. Rook a1. You've got a problem. You've got a massive problem. King to f8. Rook a8. And trading rooks is devastating. King to g8. Just running where... Like, I would keep the king on f8, not gonna lie. Because you kind of always have this square. Yes, it's vulnerable there. But tucking it in the corner, this pawn, which I was berating a few moves ago, is keeping your king stuck. So the most beautiful mating net ever. By the way, Alireza has got 24 seconds on the clock, and Hans Niemann has got 1:42. A reminder that they are playing 5-0. There is no increment. So this is not looking good for Alireza Firouzja. We get rook takes d8, which is a bit premature. Knight takes d8. But now bishop to f4. Now, Alireza has one and only one move to find. He's got to go for perpetual check, so he goes for it. Queen to g4 check. The bishop slides in the way. Now we go back. Wasn't the right move. The best move here is like shocking. There's two moves. You can play rook f5. You know, threatening to take this, obviously attacking the queen and like threatening the infiltration down here. Or you can play this important move, rook to f8. You defend the knight, because it can't go forward really anywhere. Just by the way, it can't go anywhere somehow. It's trapped. So it probably needs to be defended, and you're just in general defending the back rank. Unfortunately, queen d7 is played. So now we get rook to a8, which is a slight miss, but meaningless in the grand scheme of things. Rook f8 now played, but the difference is I now have queen to d6. Extracting all the defenses. You may have queen to g4, but I can take the pawn with check. Now, your knight comes in, but I take, and queen d6 check, and Hans Niemann goes on to defeat Alireza Firouzja. Pushing his pawn, giving checks to the king, b7, and he wins. Alireza resigns, or flags, because he only had 4 seconds left on the clock, and unfortunately there's just no perpetual check, because that, you can't play queen to d1, and there's no checks here. So, beautiful from Hans Niemann. He finishes the tournament very strong, 10 out of 11, a beautiful performance. But of course, the big congratulations to Magnus Carlsen and Ella Carlsen. And I ask you this, would Hans Niemann have won if Magnus Carlsen was playing? I'll leave you to debate that in the comments down below.